Would you believe me if I told you that we're about to machine sew these hexagons behind me? Hello quilty friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about quilting and my creative life. Anywhere that you can find me on the web is listed down in the description box below, including staying up to date with what I'm making daily on Instagram and TikTok, and now exclusive content over on my Patreon account. And today I'm so excited to be showing you how to machine sew hexagons in a grandmother's garden style, like this quilt here that's behind me. That's all just placed out and I'm going to start sewing it today, and I thought I'd bring you along with it. Last week or the week before I went down a big rabbit hole on looking at how to do this technique. I think it was Moda who uploaded an Instagram post showing a half hexagon template, and I suddenly thought, I've got one of those in my stash. This was very kindly gifted to me by a subscriber, so thank you very much. So I had this and I was like, I've got that, I can use it. So this is a template. This one itself is made by Missouri Star, but I think in that original video by Moda, they was also promoting one that they make. Missouri Star, with it being National Jelly Roll Day this weekend, they've got lots of promotions on jelly rolls, so you should be able to pick up a good discount along with this template. They've got this marked at the 5-inch half hexagon template, and the 5-inch is referring to this part here, which would be the width of the whole hexagon, which if you've done hexagons in English paper piecing, that's not usually how we measure it. We would usually measure it by one of these sides. But the great thing about this template is it fits perfectly onto a jelly roll. So that's what I did. I've dug into my stash, cut into 2 jelly rolls. I had one which is the coloured fabric, which is the Flower Garden jelly roll from Riley Blake, and this was from Missouri Star as well. And then we've got Hush Hush 3, also by Riley Blake, again that was from Missouri Star, and that's the plains, which is like lots of low volumes, lots of different prints, some shades of cream, some shades of white, so it has a really nice scrappy effect to it. So far I've only placed up about half of the half hexagons that I've got cut. I keep wanting to say 1/2-inch hexagons, but it's not, it's half hexagons. So I've only placed up about half of them, so my design board's too small to go any further, so I'm going to sew the first half, and then the bottom row I'll move all the way up to the very top. It's very simple, this technique. There's no Y seams, no 3 seams intersecting. It's really, really simple. Let me show you how to cut the fabric, and also we'll do some sewing. I would also like to thank the sponsor of today's video, FlexiSpot, and we'll come back to that later in the video. So when you're collecting the rows, you just want to make sure that you keep them in order. I'm standing on my tiptoes. So just stack them all up. You can chain piece some together. Put them on your table face down because I've still got more from that row to add. So I need to add the rest, but instead of walking back and forth, I'm just going to start collecting here. You can chain piece, that will help you speed up the process, but you just want to make sure that you're keeping everything in order as best as you can. And when you're forming the pattern, the hexagons meet at the wider end. The thinner end, the pattern doesn't continue when you're making solid hexagons. You can obviously do it scrappy, so it's half hexagons everywhere, but if you want like the traditional look of the hexagons, it's on the wider side. So what you're going to do is grab 2 pieces. Oh, you got to turn everything over the right way so that we're joining the rows correctly. So if we just look here at our pile, you can see that that is where we're going to have a full hexagon. And then here I can just glance back up at my design board. The first one is a plain with cherries, and I can see that's still on the design board because its partner has been left behind. So you grab 2 from the first pile. You've got your first piece and your second piece. These 2 are going to go together like this. So that's how you want them to be finished. So to sew them together, you just need to line up those edges and you just put them together like that. There'll be an overlap either edge, just make sure that that's equal, and then take it to your sewing machine and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to chain piece straight into the next one now. So the next 2 pieces, so let's have a look. Does that match? Yes, it does. So again, we're looking at that one because it's the wide one. This one doesn't need to match because the thin edge is at the top. Again, just line them up here and feed it through the machine. So once you've done however many rows you've decided to do, I always like to have a leaders and enders project on the go. So then you can cut your chain away. I've got a leader on this end, so I'll cut that. So you open your first piece out. You can either press each time or press afterwards. I'm just going to press all the rows afterwards. I'll press all of this row before I start joining each row together, if that makes sense. So here we go. You can see that that's forming the correct pattern. You move it down, you've got a green that's on the wide side, and then you've got another wide one there, and that pattern matches. So you can see how the pattern starts to form. With the chain piecing, I'm going to leave these little threads in between because that will help me keep everything in order. So we take one from number 1. So we're going to number 2. It gets a bit like you've got quite a bit under the machine, but just don't worry too much. Just maneuver it or pin things if you need to pin. What I've been finding is I just hold this top and bottom and slide it round and it doesn't come out of place. But you absolutely can pin if you want to. So now we're joining another fat one. Just have a quick glance. Yep, that matches the piece above. Just all the time, just have your design in mind. FlexiSpot have kindly sent me their CM ergonomic chair to help keep me supported and seated correctly when at my sewing machine. The chair was really simple and straightforward to put together, lots of moving parts, but they're already pretty much assembled. You just need to screw them into place. Try and recruit some help like I did here. With it being ergonomic, there's so many adjustable features to make it comfortable when sitting at your sewing machine. There's adjustable armrests, headrests, the back tilts, and there's also an inbuilt footrest for complete relaxation mode. I'll leave the details for FlexiSpot down in the description box below in case you're in the market for a new supportive chair. This chair will now be moved up into our office where we very much need an ergonomic chair, so thank you very much FlexiSpot for that. So I'm just going to sit here and chain piece the next few rows of this, and I'll meet you back here when I'm arranging the next section on the board, and I'll show you how much it's shrunk once you take away all of the 1/4 inch seams. I've already sewn 3 rows together and it's pretty wide so far. So once you've joined them all in one long strip, don't cut these little tassels in between the rows. Leave all of those in because that will help you keep everything in order. Just flip them right sides together, making sure that again the wide side of the hexagon is matching. And then I actually haven't ironed this. I forgot. So need to iron this, and what I do when I iron it, I'll just show you. So what I'll do here is I'll do all of these seams ironed in one direction, all of these ironed down, and then these ones ironed up, so that then when you put them together, they'll be really nicely nested together. And then I don't find it necessary to pin the seams. I just as I'm going along, I just line them up and hold them together and run them under the sewing machine. So let me iron this and I'll show you. So here we go. I can feel that that is misaligned, and you can see that it is. So all I'm going to do is just slide it down until those seams match, and then start the sewing. And then just keep adjusting all the way down the row so that you can make sure that your seams are crossing over nicely. If you do want to be super accurate, you can always put pins in all of the intersections. So I have now joined all of the hexagons together, the ones that I initially laid out on the design board. I still need to do the second half, but let me show you how big it's come out. I hope I'm getting it all in. It's so effective, isn't it? From a distance, it really does look like full hexagons, and depending on how you match the patterns, you can get a really effective design. I'm also really pleased with how the colours come out, because this coloured one wasn't the jelly roll that I was originally going to use. I was going to use a Ruby Star jelly roll, but I ended up needing to pick this one. And I really love how it's come out. I love all the low volume backgrounds. This print here, I think that's one of my favourite ones. It's got quite a lot of variety on it, but I just love the colours of it. So I think I'll need to get some of that as a meterage. There's also another one that I really like. Let me find it. I also really like this one. It's got like all stitching and sewing notions and a little quilt block on it, depending on where it gets cut. And on a whole, I'm quite happy with how my points matched up. I'm not like 100% fussy about my points usually. I'd rather have fun rather than it be like 100% accurate. Because sometimes that can spoil the fun, can't it, if you get caught up on how perfect it needs to be. So I think the quilt itself will end up being this orientation. So this will be the width of it, and hopefully it'll be doubled, if not a little bit less than doubled. So that'll be the width, and then this will be the height of the quilt. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video tutorial and that you're encouraged to use a jelly roll, because we all have them sitting around and we think, what are we going to use those for? I know that I did. I've had these jelly rolls in my stash for about 6 months now, and the white one, I just didn't want to cut into it. There's lots of things you can use 2.5 inch white fabric for, but I just didn't want to cut into it. I knew the perfect project would come along, and I'm so happy with this one. So I think that's all that's left to do is lay out the next half on my design wall and then get sewing with those. Do stay tuned, and I'll give you an update on how far I get with this quilt. And if you follow me on social media, I'll put the updates on there, but I will be sure to do an update here on YouTube as well. I'll leave the details of the jelly rolls that I used and the link to Missouri Star where you can purchase a template yourself. I'll leave all of that down in the description box below. So until next time, you take care and bye bye. So just to show you the layout of the second half, if you end up having to do this, I'd recommend leaving some of the flowers on the top, because it was hard for me to figure out how to line up the flowers. So that's the second design board. I did have to cut a few more fabrics. So I've added this one, it's not straight on the grain, and there was another pink somewhere that I've added, but they match quite well. I'm now just adding this yellow up to the top there, so that'll match as well. And I have actually got a whole stack of the white jelly roll left. I don't know if the white jelly roll had more on or you just use less of the white, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this is the layout of the second half. I think I've already said bye once, but I'll just say bye again. I hope you enjoyed the video.